So hey guys, welcome again to another FFC video. And today we're gonna do our first ever YouTube video in the series The Walks, where we're just gonna have a simple and beautiful conversation with people and just um, talk about their struggles, their childhood struggles, always to the present time, and how God changed their lives in the middle of their life. And today we have a special guest, the one and only, my brother in Christ, the one that I love, and I met him in Kelly High School in my sophomore year. I'm excited to announce Oscar Magana.
Hey, what's up, guys? Look, I'm also excited too. So I want to say, first of all, thank you, Jose, for having me on here. Um, and you guys might know me as well as like this, another member of FFC who makes videos too. You might have seen some of my videos. And I'm actually really excited for this series as well because I just feel like every single time someone shares like a personal story, it can always touch somebody else because personal stories can always be relatable. And we're talking about a series as a whole, not just me, because there's going to be more people coming on here
Yeah.
and being interviewed, and everyone has a story, and stories are always relatable, especially because we're going to be talking about like things that I've gone through in my life from the past to now. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm excited to see what Jose does with other people and what other people's stories can do for others. So I'm really excited, guys, and thank you, Jose, for having me on here.
All right, awesome, awesome. So we're gonna start out with your childhood, Oscar, which is gonna just give us a brief summary of your childhood, such as your parents, where did your parents grew up, and where did you grow up, your neighborhood, which elementary did you go to? So yeah, just give us a brief summary of your childhood, Oscar.
Yeah, so I guess a brief summary would be, so my parents they come from Mexico, from Michoacan, and and then I was actually born here, and I've actually been living in the same place since I was born. So I'm from the south side of Chicago. I live in Brighton Park, and I'm still here right now. I went to a school like literally like 5 minutes away from here for elementary school, and right now I'm currently still going to Kelly High School, and that's where I met Jose.
Yeah.
And yeah, and right now I'm 18 years old too. So basically, I've been living here 18 years. And yeah, I guess my childhood was pretty like as far as experience and doing things, it was very simple. But there's still a lot that I've learned and that other people can still learn from my childhood. So that's like a brief summary of where I was and where I'm at right now. Just a quick brief summary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Oscar, just tell us something that really, that really you can actually remember and just like it really stood out in your childhood. It could be like a struggle or achievement. Talk about
Hmm.
something like that.
Okay, so I think I kind of want to start off with struggles and then achievements.
All right.
I think I would say the main thing that stands out for me as a struggle back then that I always had, and it lasted till my sophomore year of high school. So it was like literally my entire childhood
Yeah.
until I became a teenager. And that was insecurities.
Yeah.
I was always super insecure. Like right now, making this video, back then I would not be able
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. It's
I
dope.
would be hiding, like I would be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I wouldn't even be able to like get up and throw a tissue away at the garbage, in the middle of class because
Yeah.
I felt like everybody was looking at me and everything. Like that's one thing that honestly it was like horrible. Like I couldn't even, I couldn't even really make friends. I couldn't like I was even just the idea of like talking to a girl was like so scary.
Yeah.
And guys too, I couldn't like really make friends like that. And that's one thing that I really struggled with, and it didn't go away until I started practicing confidence in my freshman year, which ended up leaving me with actual confidence in my sophomore year, and it just keeps getting better. So that's just one struggle, but
Yeah.
it sometimes insecurities like that do bring a form of depression. You feel like you're not
Yeah.
enough, type of stuff. So that's one thing that stands out to me from back then because that did result in me not being able to experience a lot of things I
Yeah.
could have back then. Um, and
And
then
just
as
to,
far as achievements, or what were you saying?
oh yeah, I'm gonna just go back to what you said, because actually I also used to struggle with insecurities. I actually got bully in maybe like first grade or second grade, and like I you can ask my parents. I will constantly go to the like deans and just tell them about like how I got bullied, and just they will call my parents, and my mom will be there, and she'll be and I'll be crying just like a little kid, you know. I was just getting bullied, and I think that really impacted me and my securities, you know. I would say even like I could really connect with Oscar, because even I was just like scared to like ask a question, you know, just to like raise my hand and just ask the teacher a question. So I can also connect with that. And just going a little bit, we could go a little bit more back, also a little bit more further with that topic. Why do you think kids in general struggle with that insecurities? Like
Well, I feel like
is it their parents, or is it because because for me I heard that it's because their parents most of the time they spoil the kids. And let's
mm,
say when they go to a party, right? Let's go to a
yeah.
party. They go the whole family, and you're a little kid. You're, let's say, 4 years old, and instead of the kid introducing himself to the people out there, the parents say, "Oh, this is my kid," and the kid doesn't talk. Instead of letting the child allow for him to actually shake hands with the person and actually have a conversation and be dependent of himself. That's what something that I
Mhm.
heard of that impacts your insecurities, and why a lot of children in general are very insecure and are very shy into being out there and socializing, which socializing is very important. So why do you think, Oscar, that you personally, why did that happen to you?
It's actually interesting that you brought that up because that's almost something that like literally connects with me. Because I was definitely, really spoiled back then. Like to the point, here, Oscar, you could wear this, you could wear that, and like little me would just be like, okay, and then I just, I wouldn't even choose what I would wear. I wouldn't choose what I would buy to wear. Like I wouldn't choose those things. I wouldn't make those decisions, and I had a lot of those situations too, where at parties, like it's very interesting that you brought that up because that was literally like me. I would go to parties and I would let them introduce me, but I wouldn't ever introduce myself. Or if they would notice something about me, they would just, instead of telling me, they would tell my parents. And
Mm-hmm.
so I never got used to actually interacting with people in that way, and that which is why it was hard to talk to adults, and it was also hard to start conversations with others who were my age, which resulted in me being that guy in the corner who's not saying anything. There'll be
Yeah.
many times where I'll be even with friends that I was already comfortable with, and maybe I'll laugh out loud at one moment, and then my friends will just look at me. They're like, "Oscar, I forgot you were here," because I was always the most quiet guy there. Like I would always be just on the side, like just listening to what
Yeah.
people were saying because I never knew what to say,
Yeah.
and also the lack of experience, lack of doing things. It makes you a person that can't necessarily be relatable because you're not doing anything. You're just like at home. You're not really like you don't talk to nobody. You don't really have many friends. So when you're seeing new people, you're like, what do I talk about? Um,
Yeah.
obviously those things start to change as you get older. You go through more things. You experience things. You see things. Other older people tell you things. You learn, right? But around that time, I mean, what was I gonna know? So it's very interesting that you brought that up because that's how it happened to me, and I do think that that's why I was the way that I was.
Yeah.
Even my older brother Robert, he could tell you that he's told me too that he realizes that a lot of the reasons why I was the way I was back then is because of the way that I was raised,
Yeah.
and I do think that could be something for a lot of other people out there too,
Yeah. I
because I
think
think it's very common for parents to
yeah, to do
spoil
that.
kids
Yeah.
at
I
such a young
think
age.
yeah, and also it's not I feel like we shouldn't put the whole pressure in the parents, but also the people, like the adults in general, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed, but there's parties, right, going on, the adults tend to only say hi to the adults, to the parents. You know, they just
Yeah.
ignore the kids, and the kids are just like there, just like watching them say hi. So I think it
Yeah.
goes like both ways. I think it's the parents and the adults in general, like everyone. Because like a kid would not do it, unless he is told to. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the kid is basically innocent, You know, we're innocent. When we're kids, we're innocent. We don't even know. We're basically discovering the world. That's why a lot of babies put like they just grab everything, just put it in their mouth, you know, because they're just
Yeah.
discovering the world. They just want to learn. They're curious. So I think it's
Yeah.
just adults in general, and also us as us as teens. Also, we also have to consider the young teens and the kids. You know,
Yeah.
and I think we should really consider that so we can help basically the community, humanity in general, so we can socialize a lot better and communicate a lot better. So now, Oscar, let's go to your achievements. Something that you stood out to you in your childhood.
I guess my biggest achievement throughout my childhood. Um, there's one that I'm thinking about, but it was more in my early teenage years. Uh, I guess I'm thinking of like what's before I get to that. What's
Yeah.
something that I achieved in my actual childhood?
Like it could be let me just give you some ideas. It could be maybe you won a soccer game, or you won maybe the student of the month. I don't know, maybe you got a little treat, or you probably you were always in that like positive, like you know how when we were kids they put like the red card and the yellow card and then the red card. Like maybe you were the
Yeah,
green card the whole time, and that's a good achievement that you really consider, or things like that, you know.
actually, I forgot about that. How they would put your name on the
Yeah,
on the green, yellow, and red.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that because there's times where I was on the yellow and the red, and I was like, oh, so I can that one. That's not an achievement for me because I was on the yellow and red so many times. But as quiet as I was on the yellow and red a lot of times. Um, so I would say the biggest achievement I would say this is when I actually did start my first YouTube channel. I don't do it anymore, but I guess I have multiple, but this one's really big because I'm kind of using it right now. And I started my first YouTube channel, and it was a gaming channel. I was doing it with my one of my cousins, and he him and I would play and record what we'll play. We'll play like Call of Duty Zombies, and we'll make so many videos on that. And the reason why that's like a big achievement, it wasn't because I hit like so many subscribers or because I got really popular in school or anything like that. But it was because I ended up practicing my speaking skills, and I can still keep getting better, but that's what got me sort of used to, making videos, editing videos, talking on a microphone, because I was actually getting really good at it. And another
Mm.
achievement would be learning how to make beats, make music, and that's another thing that I still do right now. That's one thing that I learned how to do. I mean, obviously, there's one thing to learn how to do it, and another thing is to master it.
Yeah.
Um, but when I learned how to do it, which changed everything, was I think in seventh grade. That's where I was actually finding like, oh, I got like a blueprint, and and I learned how to make beats, how to make music, and that's something that obviously I still do to today as a hobby. So yeah.
Alright, that's dope. Now let's go to seventh grade, sixth grade, eighth grade.
Mhm.
What is something that you got introduced to, or what is something you started doing, or because usually in between seventh and eighth grade is when puberty starts. I think
Yeah.
females start a little bit like early, but usually
Yeah.
for males it's usually eighth grade and seventh grade. So tell us something that you got introduced to, something that you started doing, something that you stopped doing. Maybe you stop playing with toys, or maybe you continue playing with toys. I don't know. Just tell us something about between sixth grade and eighth grade.
That's actually crazy. I forgot that I used to play with toys. And all my other cousins, they stopped playing toys first than me, and I already forgot that I would even play toys. That's interesting. But I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to fifth grade.
All
All right.
right.
So, and I'm gonna build up from there because I feel like that's actually where everything started kind of like happening, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, and this is where like sometimes I think a lot of people are gonna be able to sort of relate, and this is where I kind of start to bring in like struggles and stuff like that, especially because of my paradigm that I have now. But so in fifth grade, that's when I was hitting, like, I guess you could kind of say I was hitting puberty, right?
Yeah.
Because that's when I was introduced to pornography
Mm-hmm.
and masturbation. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think that's where I started hitting the earliest stages of puberty because I was already able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then that went all the way into like till I was a teenager, right? Um, and then in seventh grade, sixth grade was I introduced to more? No, I don't. I think sixth grade was basically everything that I had from fifth grade
Yeah.
passed down, right? And then seventh grade, I got introduced to marijuana, and that's like about the only drug that I ever was introduced to. Because I was also introduced into like hookahs, like just
Yeah.
vape pen stuff like that. But that's like I don't really consider that like a straight drug or anything like that. It's just vape. Um,
Yeah.
but and I never even really did that as well. But I did start smoking a lot of weed starting seventh grade, and alcohol too. I got introduced to alcohol, and there was times where I would even mix them together.
Yeah.
But I think that I didn't start doing that until well, no, actually, yeah, I think even in seventh grade, getting into eighth grade, that's when I started mixing them together. I mixed them together once just out of curiosity, and I was like, "Whoa, this feels awesome!" And then I just ended up, continuing to do that. Um, and then I would say this is kind of funny in a way, because because it would be like you would think it would be the opposite, but one interesting thing about me is that for some reason, even though I was introduced to pornography and masturbation in fifth grade,
Yeah.
it didn't take. It took me until eighth grade to actually start like you know checking out girls
Yeah.
because I would always respect them. Like
Yeah.
it was like strange. You would think it would be the opposite, right? You would think
Yeah.
that I would watch like pornography and I would be like looking at all these girls in person, right?
Yeah.
But like I would always be like when it came to like maybe like girls from my class or something like that, I would always be like, no, I don't want to do that, and I never did it until like eighth grade. I think eighth grade was finally when my friends were like, come on, it's normal, this and this and that, and then that's where it started. So I have to say it's funny because you're introduced to pornography and like you're doing that, and then somehow you still manage in person to not,
Yeah.
you know, start lusting around and stuff like that. And that didn't start until I was in eighth grade. And it's crazy because ever since then it becomes hard not to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all it takes is just that little introduction, and then boom, you're in. Same thing with
Yeah.
weed. Like I can say it's the same thing. I didn't stop smoking weed until I believe it was 2019. I was about to turn 17. Recently, I just put it on Facebook and I put that I stopped smoking weed at 17, but I'm actually meant to say 16.
Yeah.
At 16 years old, that's when I stopped.
Okay.
Um, but even when I was like, all right, I want to quit. It still took me like 7 months to fully quit.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, sometimes it just takes that little introduction, and then like you're in, like, and you're gonna be stuck in that for like a few years, and then to get rid of
Yeah.
it, like I said, it takes like 7 months.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
going back to pornography, because that was also my struggle. I also got introduced maybe about maybe the same age. What do you think is probably like a solution that um, future parents or parents in general could have or could make? Because a lot of I heard that maybe talking about your kids when they start hitting puberty, talking to them about pornography, telling them about the addictions, the problems that could happen. But on the other side, there's also telling people no, but then you're gonna tell them about sex. Now they're gonna know about sex. Now they're gonna know about that there is pornography. So
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of like in this like pros and cons, and for me, I'm not a parent yet, but I know that parents they want a solution. They want the best for their kids. So what do you
Yeah.
think is something better or something that your parents could have done for you to, in a way, not get attached to pornography?
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people, they might feel like no, because if I bring that up to them, now they know about it, right?
Yeah.
And the way I see it is like either we teach them that stuff or the world will teach them that stuff, right? Either a father teaches his son those things, or his friend is gonna teach him something like
Yeah.
that. The child's friend is gonna teach him about that. And a lot of times, like I guess you could use even the weed for example. If the dad starts talking about it, sometimes it can have a different impact than the friend, because the friend will just be like, here, take it. And then it's your friend, you don't want to disappoint him, and then you like, you don't really know anything, you start taking it, right? um so I feel like, you know it is hard because you bring it up, now they know, and it's, most probably they're going to, a child, we're talking about children here, they're
Yeah.
most probably going to get, uh curious to know about what you're talking about. And but I feel like, there could always be room for parents to be able to, you know talk about something before the world does to them, you know
Yeah.
um and yeah, like you said, I'm not a father yet, I'm not a dad yet. um but I do think that you can sort of start, you know in a way, making it normal to kind of like start bringing up things like sex to your kids, because sometimes we as kids, we grow up thinking that sex is like this super evil thing, you know
Yeah.
um like, for example, I grew up Catholic,
Hmm.
right? And because of the way my parents never talked to me about sex or anything, nobody really did. Only it was only something I'll talk about, to my friends, around my friends.
Yeah.
It felt like something that I should only do with my friends, and doing things only with my friends, it felt like I was hiding it, and it felt like it was like a this evil thing that nobody should ever talk about. To the point where I used to think that even if a husband and wife were to have sex, that God would not like that.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was something really bad. Like, even if like a wife and a husband would want to, mate and have sex, like that would be so horrible, and God doesn't like that. Like, I felt like sex was like this evil thing. Like, nobody should talk about it. Nobody should do it. You should only do it if you want to have a baby. And I feel like that happened because I wasn't. Nobody who was older than me really talked to me about it in a normal way, where it was in a way also serious to learn about it.
Yeah.
And it was only something I talked about with my friends when we would watch like pornography and things like that, like in secret, right, as a secret. And so I feel like as parents, sometimes we can at least, start to flip that around. Have kids understand, like, at the same time, you don't want your kids to think that they can just go watch pornography, but have kids understand in a way also that, it's a normal thing. Us, I think, as followers of the Bible, of Jesus, like, I feel like we could also, you know and this is, for us, I do think that, anybody should be able to do something, though, because not everybody's going to use the Bible
Yeah.
to help out their kids. But I think, for those who do use the Bible, we could also, start teaching them what God intended about sex, right?
Yeah.
Kind of normalize it. And so, like that, it could be a lot easier for them to be able to communicate to you, what they're thinking about when it comes down to sex. And then it opens that door for them to be open with you, and for you to be open with them, and for you to be able to teach them. Because if you build this idea in their head that, anything that has to do with sex is horrible completely, it doesn't mean you don't tell them to cover their eyes when they're watching a movie,
Yeah.
or something like that. I say you should, but maybe you should still, in a way, allow them to be able to open up to you and say, and like ask you questions and things like that. Because if you completely just make them think that it's horrible um sorry, I just got a notification that my battery is actually low,
Oh.
on my phone. But they can start hiding that stuff from you. They wouldn't want to talk to you about those things, and then who are they going to talk to? Their
Yeah.
friends. And then what are their friends going to keep showing your kids, pornography? And then they're going to be in a spot that you don't really want them to be in, because then that all that stuff, leads to, you know maybe even getting a girl pregnant at an early age,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Before we
adult.
continue, what percentages do you have on your phone?
Let me check.
I just check real quick.
20.
20. You think it will last for like maybe all the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, now that Oscar told us about his struggles, how he got introduced to pornography, and the solution for parents and for future parents, and it's actually to talk to them about it. You know, not wait until someone else teaches them in a bad way about sex, because sex is actually, how Oscar said it, sex is actually something beautiful. God created sex for us to reproduce, to actually mate and enjoy it. That's why, in a way, it's very joyful. It's very pleasurable. It's because it was meant for you to have that beautiful gift with your husband or your wife. So how Oscar said it, and something I want you to talk a little bit more, Oscar, also, before we go to the your teenage, is how were your views in God? Like, how did you see God in your childhood and in eighth grade and seventh grade? Like, did you believe in God, or were you an atheist, or were you a
Yeah.
skeptic, or how were your views and your relationship with God?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up Catholic. So since the earliest age I could think of, probably like 3 years old,
Yeah,
since even since I barely started understanding like real things about the world, I had already started believing in God, and especially because I was always at church every single Sunday,
yeah,
and that was like in a religious sense too. Like we always felt like if we wouldn't go to church, that God would be angry with us, and that like we're not gonna go to heaven because of that. So we were there like every single Sunday, and I would always see the statues. I would see Jesus on a cross. I would see everything, right? So that's why I would always, they even had like a pretty cool painting of Jesus on the clouds. And so I already started believing in God, even just by seeing those things and seeing how serious people were about God. How many people will go to church, how many adults are there. The priest is an adult, and me as a little kid, I'm seeing adults do this. So I'm like, oh, God must be real. And then seeing that painting of Jesus in the clouds, I'll look up and I'll see the clouds, and I'll immediately think of the picture. So I would picture, God up there, and so I grew up believing in God, and I still do to this day. Um, but my views of Him definitely have changed.
yeah,
I always seen God as you know someone who was gonna let me go to heaven, but He was gonna judge everyone else. you know, I felt like I had my own good works, my own. I felt like I was perfect, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to heaven. I felt like I go to church, and like I felt like I was just ready to go to heaven, and I felt like with anybody else, if they would sin or anything like that, I started getting ideas of sin. I didn't really know much though, for sure, about the Bible, because around that time, my view on the Bible was that it was just this huge textbook that has like a lot of like stories and like every time I think of the Bible, I would think of it as like if you were to go in there and read it, like you would discover like I don't know, like
Harry
the
Potter book.
dragons. Yeah, like the dragons exist, and like there's worlds out there,
Yeah,
or like land out there on Earth where there's like unicorns and like crazy things like out there in the world. I was young, so that's kind of how I had the view of the Bible. So I didn't really know, if I didn't understand the Bible, so I didn't really know what to think about Jesus and
yeah,
God, other than what they would say at church. They'll say, do this, do that, and so I would feel like, okay, there's rules, and
yeah,
I would feel like I followed the rules, right? I was very like religious and in tradition, and
yeah,
so I felt like I was going to heaven, I was good. But I felt like if I already knew about sin, and I felt like, oh, everyone else was sinning, like I felt like God had no way of forgiving people.
yeah,
And if I had sinned, I felt like there was no way that I could be forgiven, and that I could have like grace and mercy. And all that stuff changed until when was this? Um, what year was it when me and you met?
like sophomore year.
I was like sophomore year. It was at
No, wait,
2019.
yeah, sophomore year. Yeah, that was
Yeah, so it wasn't until 2019
19.
where I really got introduced to what Jesus did on the cross for real.
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed. That's when I saw the true God, the
Yeah.
true, you know, definition of what happened on the cross, and what it meant for Jesus to resurrect. Um, that's when I actually learned, you know, how God actually views the world
Yeah.
and what he has done for the world.
Yeah.
And we could probably get into that a little later, into
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, let's go right now. Let's go to the basically your high school years, you know? Like,
Yeah.
what did you continue doing and what did you stop doing? Did you get introduced to any more things? Um, and things like that. Yeah, just talk about your freshman, sophomore, and then we can continue all the way to junior and senior and see the things that changed. That in your encounter, how you said in your sophomore year when you encountered the living God, like how did that
Mhm.
change? But let's go to freshman and just build up all the way to senior year.
All right, so freshman year till now, that would be freshman year to senior year. So freshman year, I would say what I still was doing. So okay, so real quick, just to backtrack a little bit. So in eighth grade to freshman year, I started going through this stage of you know, watching conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So I would. That's when I really started believing in like the Illuminati and things like that. That's when I started getting so into that. It was crazy. Like that was my entertainment. Like I almost even stopped watching movies because of that. That's all I would watch. But the guy that I would watch, I guess he would claim that he was a Christian. Like
Yeah.
he would talk about Jesus, right? And I already believed in God and stuff like that. But he would show videos where people mock, God or something like that. And he'd be like, "You see, they mock Jesus, la la la," and he would talk about Jesus. And because of that reason, I started getting serious about Jesus. I wanted people to know about him, which is strange because I didn't understand what God had done to forgive the world, what he had done through Jesus. I didn't understand that. But I started understanding that Jesus was important. And I started talking about that online. People started thinking that was kind of weird because now I was all about God. You know, it's like, oh, Oscar's all about God now,
And what was
And
that? What year was it?
that was when that first started, when I really started getting serious like that was in eighth grade.
Oh, okay.
But the thing about that is that I started actually like because of those videos of Illuminati, I started thinking that everything was all demons. Like everything, like if I had like a pack of Kleenex, and if it had like a little triangle, I would be like, oh, these people worship Satan,
Yeah.
and like everything was demons, 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 and everything was demonic. And so people started getting thinking that I was weird. Like everything that I would see, I would think it was demonic, and that
Yeah.
people need to come to God. And that kind of went into my freshman year a little bit, and then it started fading away. And this is where things start to really change. So remember how I said that I was always very insecure?
Yeah.
So what happened is I was watching those types of videos, but then now what happened was that my brother was getting into business, right? He wanted to be an entrepreneur for the longest, but this is where he was really learning stuff now. And he was like telling me about it and everything. And then because I started watching like videos about that stuff, uh, I ended up getting an advertisement on YouTube about this book called Millionaire Success Habits. So I was like, yo, like this is crazy. Like it sounds so good. I'm like, I want this. I bought the book. I read it. And that was the first book I've ever read. And then that was the book that ended breaking, helping me break the insecurities that I had and help me practice confidence. And then I started doing that my freshman year. It was still really hard. Entire freshman year, or my entire freshman year, I was still with the insecurities that I had, but I was already trying to practice confidence. That finally, fun fact, I had in a way I flunked freshman year, not because of my grades, but because I was at a noble school. I went to a school called Mansueto. It was a noble school, and I had a lot of detentions there because they were really strict.
Yeah.
And because of the amount of detentions that I had, I couldn't like serve them all. You had to serve them in a specific way. I couldn't do that, so they were like, "Yeah, like you're done. Like you're gonna be a freshman all over again." And the only way that you can become a sophomore is if you leave this school, if you leave Noble schools, the entire thing, and you move on to like CPS or something else. So that's why I started going to Kelly, which is a Chicago public high school, and that's how I became a sophomore. Or else I would have still been a junior right now instead of a senior. Uh, and I practiced my confidence there, and that's where like I changed. And that's where people started even telling me like, "Hey man, you look more like an actual like a man. Like you look more like a guy. You're walking different. You're doing things different. You're speaking different." Uh, because I didn't my masculinity was kind of increasing more. My confidence was increasing more. So that's where I actually changed a lot. I
Yeah.
started dressing different. I had a lot more confidence in myself. I started actually kind of like valuing myself in a way and
Yeah.
finding myself. And then doing that ended up getting me introduced into entrepreneurship as well. And then getting introduced to that made me stop thinking and paying attention to all that stuff about Illuminati. Because back then I used to think in order to be rich, you need to sell your soul to the devil. And then I realized, getting into entrepreneurship, I'm like, no, you just make money by making money. It's just something called business.
Yeah.
And I saw proof that you could do that. So that's where I started pushing that away. And then I was still with God, but now I had the view of God as in, that God exists only to have you prosper, only to have you get rich.
Yeah.
And I still believed in Jesus. So in a way I had this idea that somehow for some reason Jesus was crucified so I could get rich. So like I felt like that's all God was there for, just so I could get rich and prosper and have a beautiful life. And that was my view until sophomore year. Um, which this is when everything was happening. But halfway into sophomore year, my brother met this guy. He was like his business partner, and this business partner introduced my brother to the gospel, to the true message of what happened on the cross, and why Jesus decided to do that, and like all that stuff. And that's when my brother got introduced to that, he told me, and that's when we started watching more videos and kind of like looking into it. And that's when we finally understood it. We finally understood what the true living God has done for the world, and what the cross, Jesus being on the cross and all that stuff, what that actually means. And that's when that guy, his name is Caleb. Um, he he told my brother like, "Why have you ever thought of giving your life to Jesus, and for him to forgive you and to like just change your life?" And it took us like a few months until we did that, until we finally understood everything. And then so that I gave my life to Jesus, like in the middle of sophomore year. And then that's when I met you, Jose.
Yeah.
And then I remember I told you like, man, like what, something I just did, I just gave my life to Jesus. And you're like, me too. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like I thought I was like the only one, and you had done it too. That was awesome. And then that's when you gave me the NIV Bible,
Yeah. The Bible.
and that's when I started reading the Bible more. And I remember the book of Ephesians was the first time I was actually finally understanding the Bible. That's when I was finally understanding. I was getting to know God more, and that's when my idea of God started to change. And um and then I stopped being Catholic, so I'm not Catholic no more. And the reason how that happened was, when I learned what happened, and this means a lot to me, because I just feel like it's just like a really
Yeah.
awesome, awesome like eye opener that I had on my own. As I would pray, I would always pray to God, God make me rich, blah blah blah. But I was also very religious. I had my Catholic religious side of me, where I would pray to God and I'll ask Him for help. But then I'll be like, I'll start praying the Our Father, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo. I start praying that prayer, and then I'll start praying to Mary, You know, as I started doing the Hail Mary and all that stuff in Spanish, I would always do it in Spanish. I always talked in Spanish and prayed in Spanish, which is pretty interesting. Now I pray in English, uh, and I would do those prayers, and then I would recite Psalm 91, Psalm 91 by heart. I actually learned it by heart, and not anymore. I forgot. Uh, and what's crazy is that when I finally understood the what Jesus actually did on the cross, I remember praying to Mary, and then I was like, wait, 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 wait. I was like, with everything that I just learned, where does she fit? I'm like, I don't see a spot for her to fit. I'm like, I don't know why am I praying to her right now? Like, if Jesus is the only one who can save me, then what is the point of praying to Mary? And I couldn't figure it out, so I just kept doing it until finally, like my fifth time doing that, I was like, I felt like weird. I was praying. I was like, I'm like, I think I gotta stop, and I just stopped. It was all completely on my own. Like nobody told me anything. Nobody told me to stop praying to her. Like it was just something. It was a conviction that I felt, because I had already come to know um, the gospel of Jesus, the message, the good news of Jesus. Um, that I was like, I couldn't find a spot to like, you know, fit Mary into that equation. As you can see, I have rosaries here and stuff like that. Those are my dad's because my parents are still they're still Catholic, and my
Yeah.
brother and I are you know we're I guess I say Christian, but they call us Protestants. So just to be more clear on that, since Protestants and Catholics are both Christian, um, I like to just say that I'm just a Bible believing Christian. I believe the Bible. I read it in context. I take it for what it says. I don't like to read my own traditions and force them onto the Bible. If my tradition is wrong and the Bible tells me, I'll change that. You know,
Yeah.
so that's how I am. And I stopped praying to Mary not because somebody told me or because I was introduced into a new tradition, but simply because I understood what God had done and I couldn't find a way to fit Mary into that equation in worship, to worship her and things like that. I
Yeah.
couldn't find that. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a bit of a struggle also to have parents who are Catholics, and actually to have an entire family who's Catholic, and for you not to be Catholic but to still be a Christian because Catholic and Protestants are both Christians. It's a bit of a struggle because when you tell others like, oh yeah, I'm not Catholic no more, but I'm a I still believe in the Bible. I'm a Christian. They think that you're saying like, oh, I'm Muslim or I'm like a Buddhist or something like that. They think that you're like some foreign creature in another world or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it's been until now. And yeah.
So yeah, now that we got that out of the way, now that you talked about how you met Jesus, how the living God enter in your heart, I think that's amazing, and I think that's something that I can even add on to that because even I, when I was going back to how you were a kid and you always believed in God, you know. That was me too.
Mm-hmm.
I actually always believed in God. I always knew that there was a God. Actually, I was raised Christian, like Oscar. I was basically like Oscar, but the opposite in being a Christian. I never missed a Sunday. I always went to Sunday school. My mom always she always read the Bible to me. I know basically almost the whole Old Testament by heart. I know David and Goliath. I know Abraham, Moses. I know what all they did when I was a little kid, and in a way I saw it almost like how Oscar said, like it was a Harry Potter book. I was saying like in the between of the struggle of whether if I should really consider this as real or my parents are just reading it like another story, you know. And I think I was a little kid. I couldn't really understand it, and I think now that we got that out of the way, Oscar. Now let's talk about the new desires. You know, what's your new after you gave your life to Jesus, after you got presented to the gospel and you accepted it in your heart, and what was your new desires, and what was the desires that changed?
Yeah. So, so yeah, it's a few. So let's just say my old desires, right? The things that I was doing that I thought were not bad, that I thought I didn't have to change. And that was smoking weed, right? Intoxication, being intoxicated. So that means getting high, getting drunk, masturbation and pornography. Um, what else? What else? Cussing, saying bad words and things like that. Speaking inappropriately about others, or or even about yourself. Um, I wouldn't really do like a lot, and there's probably many others because all of us are just in. We're not perfect. Um, but those were like, I would say those are like the five things that I really needed to change about myself that I thought were completely fine back then.
Yeah.
And also I had never lost my virginity. Um, that's something that I still haven't done. I haven't done any of that. I've only been introduced into, you know, pornography and masturbation, and so those five things, were things that I thought I didn't have to change at all, and I liked doing those things. And then finally, when I came to Jesus and to God and all that, I started, finding out, what's good and bad. I started getting a brand new conviction, and so, my new desires now were to stop, getting intoxicated.
Yeah.
My new desires were now to stop masturbating, stop looking at pornography, to stop getting drunk. um, I got another notification again. I'm at like 10% battery. uh, and the reason why I had those desires, it wasn't so I could go to heaven, but I had those desires because I just wanted to make God happy.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, I wanted God to look at me and to see me that I'm trying to give up my old ways and do brand new things
Yeah.
in a new way. And it wasn't until later I started understanding why I was doing that. And it's because I have a brand new identity.
Yeah.
I've been given a new identity. I've been given a new heart. My old heart has been removed. I've been given a brand new one. You know, I realized that when I gave my life to Jesus and I was forgiven, the old me, even just the old me, the old personality of me, the old everything of me back then before Christ, that version of me died, and then a brand new version of me, came to life. And that's because God spiritually has finally brought life into me. He has brought truth into me. He's brought Jesus into me, and that's when I learned that I'm like, oh, this is why I have brand new convictions. This is why I feel like I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to stop doing this. And it wasn't because I went to a specific church that told me what to do, what not to do, and set all these rules for me. It was just my own simple convictions, and also from reading the Bible, I ended up realizing how God truly wants us to live, and I just wanted to live in a way that will make God happy, and it
Yeah.
wasn't so I could go to heaven. So yeah.
Yeah, I think something to add on is even how you said it, it's just new desires. I think when you give your life to Jesus Christ, it's not, a lot of people think that you're now set into these rules. Now you can't smoke. Now you can't watch pornography. These are rules, these are regulations that you have to do in Christianity. But no, it actually is something that me and Oscar, we don't want to do anymore. And all the Christians, even though if we stumble many times, even though if we fall many times, after we fall, what do we feel? Guilty. We feel regret and all these type of feelings. So we have to understand that it's not regulations or rules, but it's mostly like how Oscar said, it's new desires. It's not it's not that you have to now go to church. Now you have to read the Bible, and that adds on to the new desires. Now you want to read the Bible. Now you want to go to church. It's not forced, but instead it's naturally a new desire. Now that Oscar talked a little bit about how his life changed meeting Jesus Christ. Now let's talk to the present time, Oscar. Now, what are you doing? What are your plans? I see. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that you're very into that business, the entrepreneur, which is Oscar has big plans with those ideas, with the money that is gonna come if God allows. So let's talk a little bit about what are you doing? What are you up to, Oscar?
Yeah, so now in the present moment, I mean, one thing that I could still say is like, how I was saying that I have new desires and stuff like that. One thing that I would still say is that one thing you need to do is set boundaries with yourself. Like if you want to truly, because that's one thing that happens. You realize like, wow, like I'm a person who was sinning, and I still
Yeah.
sin now, right? Because the sin is something that still comes around, because you're just not perfect in that way, physically, and in this realm here, spiritually you are,
Yeah.
but physically here you're not. You
Yeah.
still have the some weaknesses, right? So what happens is you get new desires, and then you're like, you realize like, wow, like even as a sinner, God had died for my sins. Like, who would ever do that, right? Like, would
Yeah.
would you ever sacrifice yourself for somebody that you hate? No, like nobody does that. You sacrifice for people that you love, people that you care for.
Yes.
And the fact that we can say that God has done it for every single individual person that has ever existed. It's like you're one of those, and it's like, wow, God still loved me. And you end up realizing God's love in such a deep way that you feel morally wrong accepting that gift, accepting that love, and then just throwing it away by just going and doing whatever you want now.
Yeah.
It just feels morally wrong. um you know and it just feels kind of like Christmas. Like if somebody bought you a house for Christmas, bought you something huge that you didn't even ask for. You're just like, what? Like, why did you buy me that? Like, you didn't have to, bro. And
Yeah.
then but it's just like this huge gift that somebody gives you, and you're just like, wow, like I don't even know how to pay you back. And then, but instead of having that attitude, it's just like, oh, all right, thank you, and then you just completely ignore the person, and then you're not
Yeah.
grateful at all. It feels morally wrong. So that's for sure what I started going through, and I still go through now. So I'm like, in a way, what I'm trying to say is that I want to, you know in a way, I can never pay back, pay God back, because what He did to pay for my sins, to clean my sins, it took the blood of Jesus. I can't pay that back. There's something I'm never gonna be able to pay back. But the
Yeah.
least I could do is, change the way I talk, change the way I go about my daily life. The least I can do is, if God wants me to be careful and not, have sex before marriage because it can cause a lot of issues for the girl and for me and things like that, then the best thing I could do is follow his advice, do things that he considers to be, do things that, avoid things that he considers to be sin. And uh, this is something that sometimes, you know, that what people have to know is that even though I've given my life to Jesus 2 years ago, I've been doing this for 2 years. It's still hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You're still, you still struggle. Because and I think the biggest thing that everybody, including me, struggles with would be lusting.
Yeah.
Sexual desire, sexual sin. Why? Because our bodies are created in a way for us to want to reproduce. We want to have sex. That's what puberty is, about all the time. And mainly, like our body starts developing in a way where we have the desire to have sex. We have those things, and then not only that, but we start understanding sex in a different way. Then now we start lusting. We see girls with nice bodies or whatever we're attracted to, right? Like we start getting fantasies. We start building fantasies in our minds, and sometimes even pornography still comes around.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes you're longing for something. You've been longing for something for so long that you want to go back to it, and sometimes you do. And I've actually experienced that. Like I had given up pornography for a while, but then I had fallen back into it. I think this was like last August. I ended up like falling back into it, and then I realized like just that simple little like opening that door, just falling back into it, how you could stay stuck in it for weeks or even months, and it was hard to get myself back out of there.
Yeah.
I had to get back into into reading the Bible a little bit more, getting more conviction again. Because I wanted to please God. I wanted to live in a way that that would make God happy. and I started watching videos on how to give that up and things like that. To the point where I even read articles that were not religious
Yeah.
on how to give up pornography, and that's what helped. So I mean, I would say, if you're a Christian, if you're a believer in Jesus, and you're watching this right now, that's one thing that you can do too. Uh, you know, watch videos, read stuff, find ways to give that stuff up. Or if it's weed,
Yeah.
find ways. There are ways to give up addictions, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing that I just feel like I have to say, because sometimes we see ourselves getting older in the faith. Like for me, I've been in for 2 years. Other people have been in for like 50 years. In
Yeah.
reality, I'm still very young in the faith. But uh, even though you start to understand a lot of things about God, and you grow mature into the faith, you still struggle. There's a
Yeah.
lot of struggles, and those struggles are always going to be there. I've heard people who have been in the faith for like 40 years plus, on you know they say that they still struggle with a specific sin, and you know one person on YouTube, he even said that he doesn't even count his sin anymore. That he used to like count, like, all right, I've sinned 5 times this week. He's like, I don't even count it no more. Like I it's something that you just can't track, but it's something that you could at least, whatever you could find and fix. It's good to fix it. It's good to just try and still live a life that would be pleasing to God. Not because you're gonna go to hell if you don't, but because it just morally it just feels right to do it.
Yeah.
Um, God has given you a precious gift that lasts forever, and the least that you can do is just pay him back in a way of just fixing your morals, the way you act, the way you behave.
Yeah.
That's the least you can do. You can never pay God back. In reality, you can't.
Yeah.
But that's the least that you can do. And as I said, some people don't even count their sin no more. They're just like, what? I just fix what I can, and the rest I leave it up to the grace of God, His forgiveness, and
I
and
think.
and now very quickly I'm gonna get into, like, now what I'm uh doing right now with my hobbies and things that I'm interested in right now. The reason why I took a little longer explaining those things is because usually when it comes to like my goals and stuff like that, I like to kind of talk about them a little bit, but I don't like to fully give out my goals, not
Yeah.
because I'm trying to, like, not because it's personal or anything like that, but just because um sometimes I like to keep it
Humble.
a bit quiet,
Yeah.
and just see if I could do it, and if I do it, everybody knows now.
Yeah. Before
Um,
before you
yeah.
go towards your goals, I'm gonna just add on something to that you said about like struggling as a Christian. I think something that we all have to understand, including non-Christians, is that we're not perfect. Our actions are not perfect. The way we act. We still stumble many many times. There's people who can give up pornography like just instantly, and there's people who give up weed instantly. There's people who could give up cursing like instantly, or just I don't know, maybe like certain addictions. Like people are able to give up certain things faster than other people. I was able to give up weed instantly. For me, I was like, okay, I don't want to, boom, I just moved on. And I think something that, and I heard this from a lot of Christians, is that something that was very hard to give up was lusting, pornography and masturbation. And I think us, we have to, in a way, be um, view people in a very graceful way, in a very loving way, just to, when someone comes up to you and he tells you your struggles, like, very, take it very in consideration, because it's something that people wouldn't open about it, because no one's gonna tell you and come up to you, oh, hey, yo, bro, I struggle with masturbation, because usually we think it's the opposite. But I think for me, the things that are helping me out, and I'm not perfect either, just like Oscar said, and we're spiritually perfect, we're spiritually sanctified, justified, but our actions are not perfect. I think something that really helped me out is actually acknowledge who you are, your identity in Jesus Christ. Almost view it like this, you're saved, you're justified, you're perfect. So act according to your identity, and that is think about it this way. It's actually harder for a Christian to sin than to not to sin. Because when you sin, you actually, you're thinking about it, you're feeling a certain way, you're feeling kind of guilty, you're like, oh crap, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. But then you're fighting almost like a battle in your head, and you're like, I don't want to do it. But for you to actually say good morning to someone, or you to give something to someone, it's just so fast, you know. But to sin is actually very hard. So view like this in a way that it's harder for you to sin. You, a Christian, it's harder for you to sin than to not to sin. And a lot of people don't view it like that. And also that um, when you stumble, go upon that grace. You know, be on that grace. Be like, God already died for that. You know, almost view it as a little like a boost. Like gives you a boost to get back up. You know, and be like, you know, Jesus already died for that. I'm good to go. You know, you
Yeah.
fall again, grace. You know, you fall again, grace. All the way up to you stop doing that. You know, I know people like Oscar said. I know people that they're 4 years in Christianity and they still struggle with that. It's actually because a lot of churches don't promote that you're already safe. You're sealed up. You're justified. There's nothing you can do to please God or not to please God. God is already happy. He loves you no matter what. No matter if you watch pornography 10 million times, you masturbate 10 million times, God still loves you. You're still gonna enter in God's kingdom. You know, it's not according to your actions that God defines you, but it's according to Jesus that defines who you are. You know, I think one thing that it's something that I actually understood as me as finding the solution to stop masturbating or watching pornography. It's actually that there's no perfect formula. You know, because we always want that, like that perfect formula. That's what I was doing. I even got into like, maybe I have a demon inside. You know, maybe I'm struggling with pornography because I have a demon inside. Oh shoot, I'm scared. You know, but that's not true. Just calm down and relax. That's not true. And then you go all the way to YouTube videos, and they actually tell you, okay, now you have to confess your sin, confess all your sins, and then you do it, and that doesn't work. You know, and then someone tells you, all right, you have to read the Bible more, read the Bible more. You read the Bible more, that doesn't work. You know, it's interesting because we always we want that like perfect formula, but there's no actually perfect formula. I think the thing that really helps and is helping me right now is actually acknowledge who you are in Jesus Christ and act according to your identity. And and when you fall, you know, Jesus looks at you like he doesn't even view, he didn't even see when you fell. He didn't even see when you fell. You know, he didn't see when you fell. He's like, I was like, oh crap, look at Jose fell again, bro. He messed up again. No, he's like, no, he's still walking. You know, he's still walking. He's still reading his Bible. That's what I love. You know, and the thing that I love to say is that if God doesn't count your sins no more, why should you? You know, and a lot of people are like, whoa, you're saying that we can sin and there's a license to sin. No, it's actually God's grace. It's because we're so used to, all right, you give me this, I give you this back. Oscar gives me $10, I give him my, I don't know, burger. Or Oscar gives me $10, I give him my phone, or things like that. We're so used to, you give me this and I give you this back. So when we encounter God, He gives you everlasting life, and He says, I don't want nothing back. You know, I don't want nothing back. You know, if you messed up, that doesn't define you. And you're like, wow, you know, like we don't know how to act. Like how Oscar
Yeah.
said, we can't pay him back. So if you're a person that's struggling with pornography, um, just acknowledge your identity in Jesus Christ. You know, and how Oscar said, we're not perfect. We stumble. We us as teens, to be honest, we stumble like crazy. To be honest, as teens, we stumble like crazy. Even I, you know, um, I think something that we should really consider is confessing to each other, you know, and telling each other our struggles, our achievements. Like Oscar's gonna tell me right now his achievements. So it was also, if you're struggling not with pornography but with other addictions like weed, or I don't know, maybe video games, it could be an addiction. Um, you don't have no one to talk to, just let us know. You know, Oscar and we're willing to help you out. You know, it's our honor to actually help you out. We actually want to help you out. It's not that, oh crap, someone texted me and I don't want to help him out. No, we actually want to help you out. It's something that we love because our new desire in Jesus Christ. So and it's gonna surprise you, or I mean, I'm pretty sure it's gonna surprise you when I tell you my struggles and I tell you what I've been through, what I'm going through. You know, and I think that helps us grow, you know, as people. So now that we got that out of the way, feel welcome to text us, in the FFC um, Instagram or Messenger. I'm the one that usually responds, but Oscar can also respond, and all other members in the FFC. Um, but now that we got that out of the way, now we got that struggle, that obstacle that we all continue to struggle with, and but we have the victory in Jesus Christ, because it says that whoever is in Jesus Christ is victorious. So we have already that victory. We already the Bible even says that we will overcome the world. That's how much victory we have in Jesus Christ. So now that we have that out of the way, now talk Oscar about your achievements.
Yeah, man. First of all, I want to say that I agree with all that. That was awesome. Everything that you said. Um, and I hope that helps somebody out. Honestly, seriously, I really do. And now I guess what I'm doing right now is, I'm obviously doing the YouTube videos with you, Jose. On the FFC on the YouTube channel. And I've been posting them on the YouTube channel and on my Facebook or on the FFC page. Um, on Facebook, only because right now I kind of like sort of want people to see what kind of content we're making, and then hopefully lead as many people to the YouTube channel, as many people as we can. So that's one thing that I'm doing. And one thing I'm still doing is making music, beats. I don't sing, or rap. I just make the music. I just make the beat. What plays in background. I make instrumentals, and also what I'm doing right now, as far as like to make money and things like that. Because I'm 18 years old, so usually this is where people ask like, "Hey, are you going to college? Are you doing this?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" And so what I'm doing right now is I'm a part of this academy called I Am Academy, and it's actually a really awesome community. And I'm right now I'm learning how to trade, and there's a purpose behind all this, that I have on my own, So I'm learning how to trade and all this stuff that goes on with this that comes with the academy. I'm hoping that pretty soon, I could actually make a lot of money off of this. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to, be strong financially, and then be able to provide for our ministry, for be able to provide for the FFC YouTube channel, be able to provide for local churches. I want to be able to provide for for other people, because me personally, I actually love helping people. That's actually something that changed when I gave my life to Jesus as
Yeah.
well. Back then, I used to not care about people at
Yeah.
all, like not one bit. Like it was bad. Like it was like I wanted to get rich, and I'm like I'm gonna get rich, and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna move out, and I'm just gonna ghost everybody. I'm gonna be alone, and like that's how I felt. And now it's crazy because gradually I noticed like wow, like I care about people now. It was just kind of funny. Um, and one way that I can sort of say that this is true is, like again, if any of you guys want to text me or text Jose, like you feel free to do that, because I'm already used to that. Because even in this academy that I'm in, the I Am Academy, it's all about helping people. You
Yeah.
cannot be successful in the academy without helping people. And I have people who text me all the time. I'm like literally texting like 5 different people, you know, at the same time sometimes, uh, almost every day actually. And some of them are brand new. Like I have like another 3 new people, and it's like a lot of people have been texting me. I've been having people come over to my house for the academy so they can learn how to trade and all that stuff. And I actually I find it awesome, the fact that I'm helping people, and I would feel the same way for God. If people want to learn about God, I would be willing to get on FaceTime calls with you. Like if you want to learn about God, um, let me know. Like one thing I've done too is I've studied apologetics. I can actually provide evidence, and that's what I'm doing on the FFC YouTube channel. I'm providing evidence that Jesus resurrected. If you're struggling with your faith, if you're like, I don't know why I should keep believing in God, I don't know, then reach out to me. We could hop on a FaceTime call or something. We could figure something out, and I could tell you, the reasons why you should still continue to believe. I could explain things to you if maybe you're like, why is there so much violence in the Old Testament? If there's anything you're struggling with, or if you're an atheist and you're interested or something like that, feel free to text me, and I'll be willing to help you guys out. I genuinely believe my faith grew stronger because I genuinely believe that I have found concrete evidence that Jesus resurrected from the dead, and and if that's true, then the Bible is true, and it is also true that Jesus is God, and everything just connects from that simple fact. And so just feel free, and because I'm already helping a lot of people with business, and I would love to do it with uh, with God and spirituality, and uh, and yeah, and I do have some goals. Going back to why I'm doing the business stuff. I my goal really is to be able to make a lot of money, and I'm gonna be honest, yeah, like make a lot of money. But because the goals that I have, the ideas that I have, do require that. Unfortunately, they I wish it could be cheaper, but they do require a good amount of money. So that's why you know I'm doing this business stuff. In the academy, they even say you know that you need to have a reason why you're doing it. You need to have a why,
Yeah.
and I do have a why. And me personally, I've thought about it. I'm like, I don't care if Elon Musk, the richest man in the world right now, I don't care if his business is taking people on Mars, taking people to Mars. Maybe he feels like he has a huge purpose, a huge why. He wants to take people to Mars and all that stuff. I don't care if that's his purpose. I still believe that my purpose is even bigger because my purpose is serving the one who created Mars. You
Yeah.
know, so like, and it's not because I'm big and special. Um, you Jose, you have the same why as I do. We serve the same God. There's so many other Christians out there. They serve the same God. So it's not because I'm someone special, but simply because I have also join the family, join spiritually those who believe that Jesus is God, that He resurrected, that He died for the wrongdoings of the whole world. Because we've all failed the standard of God, and we've also failed our own standard. That's one thing about us, you know, about humanity. Humanity has
Yeah.
also failed its own standard, and I believe that God has brought about a way to, you know, to redeem us. I believe that the main story of the Bible is redemption, and if that's true, and I'm being held accountable to share with as many people, to have as many people know that, then I believe that me and everyone else who believes in that same God that I believe in has the biggest purpose that anybody could ever have in the universe.
Yeah. Well, going back to what Oscar said, to be honest, that giving your life to God, it actually gives you purpose. To be honest, it
Yeah.
almost like it opens your eyes to a new way of even looking at the world. Even Jordan B. Peterson, he said that he acts like he believes in God, meaning he the way he lives, it's like he does believe in God, you know. And the reason why he says that is because without God, there's no purpose, you know.
Yeah.
If we all came from an accident, then we're all accidents. We don't have purpose. It doesn't matter what we do, you know. You can lust, you can watch pornography, you can have sex, because no matter what, it's everything's gonna, I don't know, go out of just a big black screen, you know. But actually there is a purpose, and if you're looking for a purpose, when you surrender your life to Jesus, He's gonna give you that ultimate purpose. You have two options. Either you can say that you came from an accident, or you could say that you actually have a purpose and you created in the image of a living God. That's the two options that we have. Unfortunately, the difference between these two options is that one is actually supported by taxes, because in the CPS schools they teach evolution, so it's supported by your taxes. But the other one is actually not supported by taxes. It's not promoted a lot. It's usually promoted in churches or in your neighbors or things like that. But unfortunately, they are teaching evolution in CPS. That's why you see a lot of teens being depressed because they think that there's no purpose. If I kill myself, then it's fine because after all, I'm an animal. After all, I came from an ape. You know, after all, we all came from the Big Bang. Let me just kill myself. That's why a lot of teens, there's a lot of teens who kill themselves because of evolution. But I'm not putting all the pressure on evolution, but there's other things, but evolution is a big part of it. Um, so I just want to thank you, Oscar, for just spending
Yeah.
your time and just having me here and just allowing me to have a conversation with you, and you being open-minded, and you just telling your struggles, your obstacles, and your achievement. And we hope for Oscar to have the best roles in this business, and for him to succeed, because he actually has a very, how Oscar said, he actually has a very, very beautiful purpose, and that purpose is actually for financially help Christianity grow, and we all need that. We Unfortunately, we sometimes view money as something evil, but in reality it's not. It's something that we all need, it's what you do with the money that really, really matters. You can either
Yeah.
spend it on a strip club, or you can, spend it on food. You can buy a taco, so you have two options. Basically, money is neutral. Money is not bad or wrong, but what you do with the money is what's
Mhm.
considered wrong or bad. So we're gonna end it, Oscar. I just want to thank you for allowing me to interview you, for allowing the people to hear about your life, to hear about your struggles. I hope that everyone can relate to Oscar and somewhat to me, and I hope that we continue having this series, The Walk, and this is the walk of Oscar. This is his life. This is his struggles, his obstacles, and he's gonna continue that walk in Jesus Christ. And the end is gonna be him just being face to face with the living God, with his Creator. He's gonna say, Oscar, see, you messed up on this. No, he's gonna say, I love you. Enter in my kingdom, and that is welcome for anyone. Just put your trust in Jesus Christ and welcome him in your heart and follow him. And that's all you have to do. It's free. It's free, but it's not cheap. It actually costs a lot. It costs for a living
Yeah.
God to come down in earth and actually give his life to for us to have ultimate and everlasting life. That's the best thing that anyone can do, and the living God did it. Oscar, you want to say anything before I end this call?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you for having me, and this is awesome. Like I'm very excited for this series, for other people that you're gonna bring on here. I hope that this, some that a lot of people could, relate to my story. I also want to say, that I agree with everything that you were saying about, about God and Jesus and all that stuff. Um, it's very important that people get to understand this stuff. It's very important that people can see that this is a walk. Like it's like it's a journey. And it
Yeah.
does, and it did cost a lot. It's a free gift that you can accept. From God, from Jesus, but it did cost the blood of God. It cost the blood of Jesus, and Jesus is God. So you know that's why I say you can never pay God back. You're never gonna be
Yeah.
able to do that. You're never gonna like how do you pay back the blood of Jesus? You just can't. You can't do that. But there is one thing that you could do, and you could just simply accept the gift of forgiveness, like, and redemption, and just trust in Jesus, trust in the fact that Jesus has died for your sins. And sins, that's just a fancy way of saying the things that you have done wrong, the things that you have failed when it came to the standard of God. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other human beings, but other human beings are not the standard that God uses to judge us. From for our good works and our bad works, He is the standard. We
Yeah.
all fall short from Him. None of us are God, so
Yeah.
we all fall short from Him. And sometimes people will be like, "Well, how dare God compare us to God? Like if we can't be God, why would He compare us to Him?" All I gotta say is that at least God had participated to be a human being as well and suffer with us in this world for us to be able to, be with Him. At least God has participated to take a huge punishment on Himself for you, so that all you could do is at least accept the gift. So it's either
Yeah.
you can complain or just accept the gift. It's
Yeah.
there already.
Yeah.
It's there, and you don't have to worry about why is God comparing me to him. And like, I mean, yeah, God is comparing you to him because he's the standard, but he has found a way to compare you to him, but in a way where you are forgiven and you have his righteousness. So
Yeah.
now when you're compared to him, guess what? You have his righteousness.
Yeah.
You have you have his blood on you, you
Yeah.
know, that covers you. So it's either you can whine about it or you could just accept that gift, you know,
Yeah.
and you can live forever in paradise after death. If you
Yeah.
do that, there's actual beauty in even death. You know,
Yeah.
you're about to die. You're like, I'm gonna go to paradise. You know, like
Yeah.
it's amazing. It gives you purpose. It's just beautiful, and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. So I hope you
Yeah.
guys liked it. I hope you guys like and subscribe and comment down below. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, just text us on Instagram or on Facebook. Just hit us up and just tell us about any questions that you guys have, either for Oscar or for me. Just let us know. And I hope you guys like and subscribe. The reason why I'm saying like subscribe is so this video can get promoted and for the YouTube algorithm or whatever it is, so more people can watch it.
For
It's
sure.
not for me. I don't get nothing. I don't get paid or nothing. For more people can watch it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is the walk of Oscar. See you
Yep.
guys.
All right. Bye, guys.